Imagine you walk into your office on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Your screen isn't locked. Your desktop files look perfectly normal. But the Office LaserJet printer in the corner is just aggressively spitting out hundreds of pages into the tray.
Oh, wow.
And every single one is a ransom note demanding $3,000.
That is a deeply unsettling visual to start the week.
It really is. Welcome to Calm Coding, a weekly cybersecurity podcast that covers the latest news and stories shaping our digital world. Today, we're exploring how the boundary between our screens and our physical reality is just, well, it's dissolving.
It really is, yeah.
We're looking at how basic IT misconfigurations are leading to these bizarre, highly physical ransomware attacks right inside the office. Plus, we'll see how state-sponsored cyber gangs are already gearing up for the 2026 World Cup.
Which is a massive logistical target.
Huge. And finally, we're unpacking the situation in the UK where the new Prime Minister is just completely rewriting the rules on national data privacy and tech policy.
You know, the underlying theme connecting all of these stories today is really that unexpected intersection of digital infrastructure and the physical world.
Right.
We're moving away from threats that just lock a screen, and we're looking at systemic vulnerabilities hitting public infrastructure and physical office spaces.
Okay, let's unpack this with that printer scenario, because that comes from a recent Kaspersky report. We're seeing this campaign where cybercriminals breach a network, lock the data, and then hijack the company's hardware to literally print their demands.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that the mechanics behind this, it's a relatively new group calling themselves the XEntry Team. The mechanics are incredibly mundane.
Like, not some crazy sophisticated hack.
Exactly. We have two documented incidents, one in Colombia, one in Mexico, and neither involved some $1 million zero-day exploit. They were just the direct result of basic IT misconfigurations.
Right, so let's look at the Colombia case. A company had a machine hosting, I think it was 8 terabytes of critical data.
They're terabytes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mission critical stuff.
And they just disabled their endpoint protection platform, their EPP.
Citing software compatibility issues.
Which is wild.
When?
And then they left a remote desktop protocol, an RDP port, completely exposed to the public internet. It's like leaving your front door wide open because the deadbolt is annoying to use, right?
That's a perfect analogy, yeah.
And then you find a physical ransom note sitting on your kitchen table. You've basically given anyone with an internet scanner a private terminal into your network.
And, you know, to understand how bad that is, an EPP isn't just traditional antivirus scanning for known malware. It monitors for behavioral anomalies.
Like tons of files suddenly being encrypted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By turning it off for convenience, the IT team blinded themselves. The attackers just walked in through that exposed RDP, encrypted the data, and asked for a $3,000 ransom.
Which they just quickly paid, right?
Paid it immediately, yeah.
Now, the Mexico attack was a bit different. That stretched out over a month. They exploited an MS SQL misconfiguration, and once they got in, they didn't just smash and grab.
No, they lingered. Over 3 months, they quietly lowered internal security settings and dropped web shells.
Right. And a web shell is basically a permanent backdoor.
Yeah, as a malicious script on a server.
Yeah.
So they could just issue commands remotely without hacking back in. But the crazy part, the company's EPP actually worked this time.
Oh, it sent alarms.
It triggered alerts about the configuration changes, but the IT team just ignored them. It's that systemic issue of alert fatigue.
Right. When you get thousands of notifications a day, you just start ignoring them. But I have to push back on one thing here.
Sure.
Why are hackers doing something as retro as printing physical paper notes? Cybercriminals have been changing desktop wallpapers with digital notes for a decade. Why bother crossing that physical threshold?
Well, it alters the psychological state of the victim.
How so?
A digital note on a monitor feels contained. You know, it's just the software.
Aha.
But when the hardware in your physical workspace starts aggressively churning out extortion demands into the tray where you grab your meeting notes.
Oh, yeah, that proves they own the environment.
Exactly. It demonstrates total compromise. That visceral proof induces panic. And panic is highly effective if your goal is get a $3,000 payout as fast as possible.
So the tangibility forces their hand. But XEntry Team is pretty small time, extortion-wise. If we look at the broader ransomware landscape, based on Q2 2026 Nord Stellar data, The volume is staggering.
It really is.
There were 2,581 ransomware attacks globally in just 3 months, and a huge chunk of that is just this massive turf war between two syndicates, right?
Yeah, Quillen and the Gentleman. It's a highly competitive market in the ransomware as a service ecosystem right now.
Quinlan had 299 attacks in Q2.
Right, and the Gentlemen were right on their heels with 284. That's a 39% jump from Q1 for them.
Wow. And Dragon Force is a distant third with 147, but it's mostly small and medium-sized businesses getting hit.
U.S.-based SMBs specifically. Companies under 200 employees, under 25 million in revenue, they suffered 769 attacks.
Then you've got Canada with 97, Germany with 83, the UK with 74. But amidst all these small business attacks, billion-dollar enterprises saw a 74% spike.
40 major attacks in Q2 alone.
So what does this all mean? Is this spike in enterprise attacks just about demanding bigger payouts?
Not necessarily. You have to remember, these syndicates act like software developers. They lease their malware to independent operators affiliates who do the actual hacking for a cut of the profit.
Right, so it's a franchise model.
Exactly. And to recruit the best affiliates, a syndicate has to prove its malware can beat elite corporate defenses. Hitting a major corporation is a trophy.
Ah, so it's marketing.
Yes. It boosts their reputation in the underground turf war. The payout is almost secondary to the marketing value of the breach.
Wow. But that is terrifying. If a simple exposed RDP can take down a massive enterprise just for a reputation trophy, what happens when the infrastructure isn't a single office?
You mean like a massive public event?
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. Think about the logistics of the 2026 World Cup. It's a $10.9 billion mega event across 3 countries. You're basically building a massive, temporary digital city over a weekend.
Using parts from under-resourced local municipalities, no less.
Right, and you're expecting it to be bulletproof. Who is actually building threat models for an event of this scale?
Well, the intelligence community is tracking some very serious geopolitical threats. You've got state-sponsored operators like the Hendala hack team.
They're the Iranian-backed group, right?
Yes. They recently deployed wiping malware against Stryker, the Fortune 500 company, and they even breached the FBI director's email.
That's bold.
Very. And then there's CyberEv Triggers, who specialize in targeting industrial control systems, or ICS.
Water facilities, energy grids, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And a tournament network is layered.
Yeah.
It's a ring-based architecture. Highly secure inner rings for broadcast data, outer rings for ticketing.
But those temporary networks have to interface with the permanent industrial systems of the host stadiums.
Which rely on the local power grids. And we have a Russian playbook for how this goes wrong.
Oh, right. The 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Russian-affiliated actors deployed Olympic Destroyer. It was a wiper attack.
So not ransomware. They didn't want money.
No. A wiper just permanently deletes data and bricks the hardware. They took down the stadium Wi-Fi, the digital ticketing, even grounded the broadcast drones for 12 hours.
12 hours of downtime during the Olympics.
And lately, Russian-aligned groups have pivoted to thousands of DDoS attacks against NATO states. All 3 2026 host nations are NATO members or allies. So the geopolitical motivation is certainly there.
But it's not just the infrastructure. The consumer threat is huge. In Qatar, in 2022, there were over 16,000 fraudulent domains targeting fans.
Siphoning credit cards and credentials.
Yeah. And in 2026, everyone will be scanning QR codes for parking, for shuttles. Think about the MGM Resorts breach.
Oh, the social engineering attack.
Right. They didn't hack a firewall. They just called the IT help desk. And that single human failure took down digital hotel keys and casino point-of-sale systems. If someone socially engineers the digital transit passes across 16 cities.
The physical crowd crush would be an absolute nightmare.
Total chaos.
But, preparation works. Look at the Paris Summer Olympics. They faced 140 documented cyber events and 22 confirmed intrusions.
Including a ransomware attack, right, at the Grand Palais.
Yes. But there were 0 disruptions to the actual games. Because French national cybersecurity agencies spent years coordinating defense with private vendors and local municipalities.
So a unified national strategy is actually the key here.
Exactly.
Which transitions us perfectly to the UK, because defending against localized and global threats requires a national strategy. But how does a government balance securing that infrastructure with protecting the privacy of its citizens?
The very fine line.
It is. And the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is just completely shaking up the tech landscape to find that balance. On day 1, he dismantled the Department for Science, Innovation, and Technology.
Folding it away away, yeah.
And just days prior, he scrapped the controversial National Digital ID Plan, BritCard,
Right, and BritCard was designed to be this massive, centralized identity database.
which digital rights groups like Big Brother Watch and Liberty just absolutely hated.
They celebrated its cancellation as a massive victory for civil liberties, because centrally storing that data creates an incredibly high-value target for hackers.
Right.
But if we look at the administration's actual motive here, it was economics, not privacy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, scrapping BritCard frees up £600 million a year, which they are redirecting to cost of living support. Burnham actually supported national ID cards back in 2006.
Interesting. So the outcome aligned with privacy advocates, but the motivation was purely financial.
Exactly.
We're seeing that same economic calculus with the National Health Service. They're reportedly scrapping a £330 million contract with the U.S. tech giant Palantir.
The federated data platform.
Right, the platform that connects all the different regional hospital databases. But Burnham has a history here.
He does. When he was the mayor of Greater Manchester, the local NHS spent 6 years building their own analytics infrastructure instead of using Palantir.
Which saved money and created local jobs.
And kept patient data domestic. Yeah. Terminating the national contract fits that framework. It's about value for the taxpayer and domestic economic development rather than outsourcing to a foreign intelligence contractor.
But here's my pushback on this. Burnham seems to be making all these pro-privacy moves, dismantling centralized data, scrapping digital IDs, but he also supports the under-16 social media ban.
He does, yes.
How can a government enforce an age ban on social media without mandatory age verification? You'd have to upload a passport or a driver's license just to use the internet. That's exactly what privacy advocates are terrified of.
This raises an important question, right? Can you regulate structural platform issues with surface-level bans without destroying digital anonymity?
It seems like a huge contradiction.
It is, and the data shows these bans are highly ineffective anyway. Look at Australia's world-first teen social media ban.
How did that pan out?
Well, 7 out of 10 users under 16 still have active accounts.
So they just bypassed it.
Yeah, they use VPNs, they fake their credentials. It pushes them further out of regulatory safety nets. Regulators are struggling to address the structural causes, like the advertising business models and addictive algorithms, so they default to access bans that are technically flawed and hostile to privacy.
Wow. It really just shows how interconnected all of this is. I mean, we started out talking about a hacker printing ransom notes in a Colombian office.
Right.
Then we moved to state actors attacking stadium infrastructure, and now we're talking about national healthcare databases and algorithmic regulation in the UK. The line between our physical lives and digital infrastructure has completely vanished.
It really has. And I'll leave you with a final thought on that.
Go for it.
If cyber gangs are attacking massive enterprises just for reputation trophies, and state actors are targeting sports events purely for geopolitical chaos, are we entering a new era where financial gain is no longer the primary motive for major cyber attacks, but rather public spectacle and psychological disruption?
Man, that is a chilling thought. Because nothing achieves psychological disruption quite like your own printer spitting out an extortion note right onto your desk.
Exactly.
Well, that is all for our analysis today. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Stay curious, stay secure, and we will see you next time on Calm Coding.